Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Live with Law of Christ Ministries. My name is Dale Waters, and you may remember that Edgar interviewed me the other week for my testimony and general story of my life. And he thought that it was such a bad interview, that I was so tired, so stuttering, and such a poor interviewee that he was going to come on and show us what a real interview looked like. So it is my pleasure tonight to welcome and introduce our guest of honor, Mr. Edgar Ruiz himself.
You and your introductions. What's going on, brother? Thank you once again for taking time for this. Obviously, I'm not cool enough for anybody else to interview me or Doug, Thanks a lot, Doug.
My name starts with D. It's 4 letters long, so close enough. I'm doing well. How about you?
Good. Yeah, so I kind of wanted to do this again, and not about me, bro. It's never been about me. Like a year ago, I did one, and I didn't have the equipment. It sounded whack, and I'm just like sounding so boring. I had just recently started doing all this stuff, so and I held back a lot too. And again, if nobody's talking to you, you're just sitting there like talking to the camera. So I was like, let me do the updated version, So I'll be able to open up a little bit more, and then obviously I have more to share. Now that we're in the Doug Gooden era, so
Oh.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I've enjoyed getting to know you, and it's been, I appreciate the trust and openness you've shown me in talking about your life. But I think tonight's a great opportunity to be a little bit more structured about it. And
yeah, exactly.
Sort of see what God has done in and through your life. How far you've come.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to, I guess, give the opener. We're studying Philippians right now in my home group. And, we're talking about, look, it's about, Jesus is this prize that you're striving for. And the goal is that you're going to actually work out your salvation so that you'll be this holy, righteous child of God.
Exactly.
So not just, sitting there thinking that, I'm such this awful wretch and how terrible it is. The idea is that you realize you were bad, but now look what Christ has done in you. And you realize that more and more over time as you improve. So that's the hope of what I hope to show today. I give you the chance to show what Christ has done in you.
Yeah, so, the more as I studied the Bible, especially like right now teaching through Romans and the home fellowship, Paul actually teaches us who we are in Christ. Yeah. It makes me realize, what? This is who I am, not who I was. And, people are always going to judge. I get that. But it's like when God sees me, what is he looking at? Why does he accept me? Why does, you know what I'm saying? It's not because of me. It's because of my union with Christ. So everything is because of Christ. So anything good that comes of me is because of Christ. So I've never been a glory hog. I've never been a person that I need to have like 1 million followers. That's not me. You know what I'm saying? I've always said that anything good that you may see from me is because of the work that God has done in me, not in myself. I don't like to be boastful. Even when I try to say something good about myself, I always like to say, hey, you know what? I'm not trying to be boastful here, but because I know where I come from. I know what I've been through. And if it wasn't for God's hand in my life, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. And as I begin to share my upbringing and then even my first few years as a Christian, oh man, it's like night and day. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's crazy.
That's good. All right, well, I guess then we'll get right to it. So let's start with where God put you. So tell us about the family that you were born into.
Okay, so I obviously have 2 parents. I'm the oldest. I have a younger sister, and I have a brother who passed away. What is that? 3-4 years ago. So that's really been that's my close family. But unfortunately, I grew up most of my life just with my mom and my brother and sister. Now, I'm not saying that my dad wasn't around, but things happen. I witnessed a lot of stuff as a kid. I'm not going to try to bash my parents, but a lot of mistakes happened, and I think it influenced me eventually to do the things and mistakes that I made in my life because it's what I saw. I didn't grow up like you did. When I was listening to your interview, I was like, wow, they all grew up this way, and it's probably why he doesn't understand like the struggles that I went through because I didn't live that way. So we all grew up. Majority of Hispanic families, they're Catholic, but it's really just my name. But professing, maybe I have like 2 people in my entire family who are like hardcore, die hard. I'm gonna die for Mary type of things. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
but it was us. But growing up, I also had my cousins. So we, for a long time, we all grew up together. We lived in the same apartment building and everything. So, but I do have just a brother who passed away, and then my sister.
Sure. So then, so you mentioned that sort of Catholicism, at least, is this big cultural
Yes,
component. in your upbringing.
especially in the Hispanic community.
Yeah.
My grandma, who also passed away, again, she was a diehard, like a real Catholic, a practicing Catholic, and regardless of the theological differences, the one thing I do owe my grandma is she planted the seed of who God was. When we were little, I remember she would all sit us down and try to teach us. I'm not saying that everything we taught was correct, but she at least planted that seed.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, I have another aunt who's a super diehard Catholic. So the few faithful religious, whatever you want to call it, in my family, they've prayed for me for all those years, and so I'm very thankful for them. They were really they didn't like the fact that I became Christian, and I'm not a Catholic and all that stuff. But regardless, there were a few, like the few real ones, were there trying to teach me. But you know, I went through the whole First Communion and all that stuff that Catholics do. But I just did it because I was supposed to, but it didn't never sink in my heart. Like, but I knew of God. I knew that there was a God. So it's not like I was an atheist, but I knew of him, but I had no relationship.
Sure.
You know?
So then
yeah, go ahead.
No, so then as you grew up, you know, whether it be, you know, were you say you knew there was a God, you weren't an atheist, was it just not interesting to you, or?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's just because I didn't see, like, with the exception of my grandma and my aunt, in my household, my parents weren't reading the Bible. My parents weren't going to church. My parents wasn't teaching us about God. I didn't, again, opposite of how you grew up. So I didn't grow up with that. If I didn't see my grandma or my aunt, I would have really not known anything.
Sure.
Right. And then growing up in the things that I saw and experienced, the last thing was on there was God, the Bible, you know? So, no, unfortunately I didn't grow up with that, and I didn't really have teachers, you know, like that, you know.
So thinking about how sort of you didn't have necessarily a lot of positive Christian influences in your life, and your mind was not on the things of God, sort of going, you know, up through high school, at least, you know, as you grew up, what was your mind on during that time?
Believe it or not, I was always, I was, okay, from human standards, okay, not godly standards. From human standards, I was never a bad kid. I was very good in school, very good, which I think that's where the whole teaching comes in later on in my life. But I was always like almost a straight A student all the time. I was a regular kid, a regular fat little happy kid, you know, just living life, you know. I wasn't out there trying to be with the gang members. I wasn't out there trying to do drugs or rebel against, because I had very strict, like my mom was very strict, military strict, which again, I'll later tell you how that it was actually a very negative relation that caused negativity between her and I, and even unfortunately to this day. So my parents were so strict where I was afraid to go out and do bad stuff, you know. But I'm just a normal kid, bro. That's the best thing I could. I was a normal kid. I wasn't like a bad kid from human standards. I'm not out there stealing candy from the liquor store. No, I was never like that, because the one positive thing, even though I don't like the way they did it, was my parents are very, very strict. So, oh man, I still remember as a kid, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, we had to go in. The sun is still out. I'm like, man, but all my cousins are outside playing, but we got to go back in so early. So the strictness kept me from maybe doing some of the stuff that my other cousins eventually did. But it also kind of backfired as I grew up, you know, because way
Yeah,
too
I want to get
strict.
to that in a second. I'm just
Oh,
curious. So you talk about your parents being strict and your mom was very strict. What was your relationship with your father growing up?
Um. So my the relationship between my parents obviously didn't work out.
Sure.
I'm not gonna throw all their dirt, but there was a lot of stuff that happened, accusations and things that I saw. I have some memories of my dad when I was little, like playing soccer or when I was a kid, like little memories here and there.
Right.
But to say that I had a dad who was what what you would the way you would hope you would want the relationship to be with a father, I didn't really have that. I didn't have that. Hey, we're gonna talk about this. Hey, I'm gonna teach you how to be a man, bro. I never learned how to change a tire and just guy stuff. Like with my hands, I'm useless. Like I don't know how to do guy stuff because I was
You
never
can
taught
play.
that. Well, yeah. Besides that, though, but like like change a tire or fix stuff. Like I am useless. I don't know how to do that. I was never guided by how to be a man. Don't do this. Don't do that.
Sure.
This is how a man is. This is how you do things. I was never taught that.
Yeah.
I was taught, not taught, but what I saw and witnessed between the issues of my parents,
Mhm.
that hurt me later on in life.
So would it be fair would it be fair to say sort of your father's influence was almost more so one of absence, whereas your mom's was one of strictness and control?
Well, definitely that I would say that for my mom. For my dad, I don't want to paint him like he's just horrible because he's not.
Sure, sure.
He provided. We provided for what we needed. The thing was because at such a young age, the whole drama with my parents and separation, I never got to experience that son and father relationship. My
Mhm.
dad was always around. Like for example, we may have lived in somewhere, and my dad lived either upstairs
Okay.
or you get what I'm saying. He
Yeah.
was there, but not there. If that makes any sense.
No, I
You
yeah.
get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So as far as from a father-son perspective,
Yeah.
unfortunately, there's not much there, and I don't have too many memories, and that's kind of sad to say.
Sure. Okay.
So,
Well,
but again, I'm not. I mean, he helped me out throughout my life as well. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, but since we're talking about from a little kid point
right.
of view, I don't remember much. I just remember maybe. I think the fondest memory I have of my dad is when I used to play soccer. He used to go watch me or whatever. Those are probably the fondest memories I have.
Gotcha.
But as I got a little bit older and started witnessing stuff, and then the breakup, I ended up falling into the same pattern of what I saw.
I see.
You know how they say if you grow up in a family of alcoholics, there's a good chance that you might become one.
Mhm.
Well, some of the mistakes I made, it wasn't that, but it was other stuff.
Sure.
And I made the same mistakes as I saw my parents, and which hurt me. And I made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
Especially during my what I like to call my super center days or my boy toy eras.
I've heard of that,
a lot of that, a lot of
So
mistakes
speaking
was
of
that.
that era of your life, so it sounds like your mom was very strict, but
Too strict.
yeah, well, yeah. So once you hit the time where maybe she couldn't enforce everything, so I don't know if that was when you hit age 18 or post high school or what, but there was a certain point at which you weren't under her in that same sense, and so suddenly the rest of what you had learned sort of took effect there. Is that about right?
Yeah.
So
Because yeah. So junior, like real quick. So junior high, same thing. Again, from a human perspective, I was not fully tainted yet.
Mhm.
Obviously, I was still a sinner, but I wasn't out there doing crazy stuff.
Right.
And even most of my high school was the same way. Good grades. I was known as a little nerd because I didn't have too many friends. I think I might have like one girlfriend, but nothing really. I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't tainted yet.
Mhm.
It wasn't towards the end of my high school where I tasted the forbidden fruit, and then from there it just went down here after that. And I think when I really started to change, there's two people in my life that really changed me. And you're gonna see how my problem was never drugs or alcohol. My problem was always women. Two women destroyed me, and one woman God used to bring me home. So the two women that destroyed me was one that obviously I got her pregnant and she had an abortion behind my back. And then the other one, and mind you, I was super young. Okay, and the other one who I had proposed to, I don't know. So I'm thinking about it now. I think I must have been like 18. I don't know, but I was like so madly in love.
Yes,
I was a lover boy. You know what I'm saying? But before I got really like, so those two people like really destroyed me.
Yeah.
So after no, I'm not gonna say her name, but after that the girl, I think I was 18 when I proposed, and I found out she cheated. From that point, again, maybe 18, 19, all the way to about 30 years old, I changed. I changed as like, I became mean, aggressive. I became almost like a woman hater because I got hurt so bad that for over 10 years, I said, I'm going to make every woman pay for what those two did to me. Sure. Because again, from human standards, I wasn't tainted. I wasn't hurt. I didn't have baggage. But once I felt that pain of betrayal and hurt and all that good stuff, not good stuff, sorry, all that stuff, I just changed. And I said, why be? Because back then my love was pure for people. I didn't doubt people. I trusted people, and I gave them my all. Yeah. But they showed, they ruined that. They ruined that for me. And even now, as a believer, I can tell you that it's hard for me to try to go back to that, to how I used to be, especially because after what I've been through. So I spent those 10 years, like, just, it's weird because I was out there being crazy with the girls out everywhere, but deep down it's like, I'm not gonna let you hurt me. And the minute I feel something, I'm gonna do you dirty. So it was like that for like I said, over 10 years. And the two people that I hurt the most, I hurt a lot of people, but the two people I hurt the most were the mother of my children. And even during when I first went to college, I went to Cal State Long Beach for like a year or something. During school, I was always like a straight A student. I was good. I got kicked out of Cal State Long Beach. I just didn't care anymore. I changed. I was filled with anger and wrath. It's like, dude, how could people do this? How can people say that they love you and they do you dirty? So I became that person who started hurting others. Right? So I got kicked out of Cal State Long Beach, and I ended up going to like another school. And then, okay, anything else? Because I don't want to jump to it. So now around, I would say this though. So I'm gonna before I actually got married, for real. Before that, I still knew about God. I still knew that what I was doing was wrong. And I think I can't pinpoint the time, but I know during the decade of just me unleashing, I would still feel just a little tugging from God. I can't tell you when, because of the seed that my grandma planted and the little bit that I've learned up to that point. I still once in a while just felt that tugging from the spirit. But I mean, by this time, bro, I was already so deep in sin, so deep in anger, and just wanting to get revenge, and I became a very ugly person.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And then how old was I? Maybe like what, 22 or 23? That's when okay, I'm not gonna share the entire thing, but I ended up getting another girl pregnant. Mind you, from the first girl I got pregnant to I was, I guess, like 17, 18, who had the one who had the abortion. From that time to when I got married, bro, there was like at least 4 or 5 girls supposedly I got them pregnant. You know what I'm saying? So that was a pattern. They were calling the house talking to my mom, hey, your son got me pregnant. Woo, woo, woo. Like, yeah, it was bad, bro. It was bad.
That's a lot.
Yeah, as I said, this is the beginning of the boy toy era, man. The lover boy. I was just out there. I just didn't care, bro. Because at that time, I did not want to put myself in a vulnerable position where anybody was ever going to hurt me again. Mm-hmm. So I had this wall. My heart became like black and cold. Mm-hmm. But I was still going to use females for my benefit. But outside of that, I was still in school. I wasn't out there. Again, from human standards, I was not a bad person. I was never a gang member. I wasn't a thief. I wasn't out there breaking the law. I wasn't treating people bad. It's just when it came to relationships, the worst came out of me. Because I had so much anger and pain in me. All I knew how, and then from what I learned and saw growing up, the only thing I was able to do is just release wrath and be angry. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And then I got, I don't know how old was I, 22, I think, 23. I remember the age. But I got into a forced marriage. I was forced to get married. And
now, when you say forced, was there a third party with a shotgun, or was it more?
Pretty much. The bazooka. So somebody lied about their age. We'll leave it at that. So I got forced to get married, and I had to bring her home. Mind you, this is at the peak of my boy toy era. I'm like, dude, I gotta settle down with this thing. She was already pregnant, bro. She was pregnant with my oldest, Melanie. And I was barely getting started to the partying and all this stuff. And like, man, I gotta bring her home. And I think, mind you, I've already apologized to her, and we're good for this. But my worst time was those years that I was married to her. I took out my anger on her for getting pregnant. Well, mind you, it was my fault. And then for having her parents force us to get married. So my anger towards her plus my anger from my past, like everything was unleashed on her. And I was the worst husband of all time. The worst. And to the day I die, I will always have that regret. I've apologized to her. She forgave me and everything. But I will always regret and take that to my grave. I wish I can go back and change that. And I was just garbage, bro. Mm-hmm. I was married, but living the single life. Mm-hmm. Still going out to clubs, still had side chicks, and I was just finding ways to lie to her to still be able to do it. I got caught so many times, and I was just able to get out of it. But I mean, she was young and kind of foolish, so So it was bad, bro. I think in the 4 years? In the 4 years that we lived together, maybe 6 months of peace and joy. And so I did get a taste of the good things of marriage. So about 6 months. But the other 3.5 years, bro, it was just me lying, cheating, fighting, sneaking out, just doing all kinds of stuff, man. Like, man, I just remember so many times almost getting caught, and then eventually I ended up getting caught, and that's why she ended up leaving. But here's where it got worse. So she left, but we were still married, bro. I didn't get a divorce until 2018.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. All right. So by this time, I'm still in college trying to get a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. At the time, I wanted to be a cop. I was married. It didn't work out. She left and everything, and look, rightly so. Then I meet the mother of my second child, Emma. She knew that I was still technically married. Mm-hmm. Moved in with her, got her pregnant when still being legally married. So, I mean, you could just, the list of sins at that time is just, man. You get what I'm saying? At first, I really did try to not be the same way I was. Because by that time, I was a little bit older. But I said, no, you know what? It was my middle to late 20s. Man, maybe, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be doing this, you know? Again, more of the tugging, like, hey, you know? But I was so deep in sin, bro, I just blocked it off. I felt it, but I blocked it off. And I didn't do all the bad stuff to the second one as I did to the first, but there was still some bad stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And I ended up leaving her. I moved out when she was 6 months pregnant. And she won't admit this, but I know that from that day to now, she still holds that against me. I've apologized. I remember when I tell you how my life changed, I remember I called both of my baby mamas crying and asking them for forgiveness because I had finally felt what they felt. But that's moving forward. So, yeah, left her. I didn't want to be with her. I started going back to my old ways. Now, believe it or not, between the first and the second baby mama in my 20s, I had gone to church a few times. 2 or 3 times, maybe to like a Calvary Chapel. I had gone to church, and maybe I was even going for a little bit. But I was just so deep in sin, and I knew, I can't come in here. God won't accept me. What kind of a hypocrite I am. I just cheated on my wife or my girlfriend or whatever, and I'm going to step in here? Yeah. No.
It was just a way that you being there really didn't fit with what you planned to do later.
Right, pretty much.
Yeah.
Be at the club the night before, and then Sunday, like, hey, I'm here. So,
yeah.
I was working. Where was I working at? I was working at the airport, and I had a childhood friend there who we used to live in the same block, and then I met him there, and he became a Christian. And I remember he would always talk to me about God or whatever. And he had invited me to his Christian church. It was a Pentecostal Assemblies of God.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and which that's probably the only time in my life have I ever seen tongues done biblically. That was the only time I ever saw it. It was crazy. But I didn't know about all that. But so I kept going in and out of churches. I wasn't grounded in the faith. I wasn't studying. Nothing that I'm doing now was I doing back then. So at the end of the day, I did not want to give up my lifestyle. And at the end of the day, that conviction, like, I can't be here. I can't.
Yeah.
So I would say for over 10 years, bro, over that tugging, the guy was pulling on me. It was like I was just running away. Like, I felt the calling. I said, no, I'm not going to leave my boy Toyero for this. I'm not. I was just too deep in sin. I couldn't do it. Couldn't.
Did you want it or not really?
Let me tell you, I'm not going to get specific, but for many, many years, I would come home after a night at the club, a night of cheating, a night of whatever. And there'll be times where I would go on YouTube to listen to a sermon after what I just did. it was like I was again that tugging. It was like like part of me was like, I know that this is where I need to go. Let me try to learn a little bit. But then it was like a back and forth, like, but then I can't do this. I can't do this. I don't know how to explain it, dude. And there'll be periods where maybe for like a month or two, like I became really dedicated. No, I'm not gonna do this no more. I'm gonna change. I'm gonna go to church. Then it got too hard for me. I said, nah, I don't want to do this. Man, I gotta give up this. No, I can't do this. I can't. It was difficult. So part of me did, and part of me knew that this is what I need to do. I need to stop. And it wasn't until so we broke up with my second one, and it wasn't until like I was like 30, early 30s. I was like, I need to stop. Like, I can't do this anymore. This partying, this cheating, this lying, 2 broken homes. My kids were like the beginning of me. Like, I need to stop.
Yeah,
I can't do this. My kids, because even now, the broken homes have affected my kids so much. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing that I'm going to take to my grave that I wish I would have never done. Because how it affected them. So I calmed down. Again, there were times where I was going to churches. Then I got exposed to like some of the Reform stuff, some Calvinist stuff here and there. But then, yeah, I had 1 foot in, 1 foot out for a while in like my early 30s. But I just couldn't commit. I've never had anybody like a real mentor, like somebody there, like guiding me, teaching me correctly. I didn't have that. I didn't have that from my father. I didn't have that from my friend who introduced me to his Christian church. He ended up moving like super far away. So yeah. I've never had like a strong male figure to teach me, guide me, or nothing. Sure. Whether it be family members or anybody in church, nothing. I've never had that. You know, so I'm not going to use that as an excuse why I messed up a lot, but maybe if I would have had that, I would have not committed as many mistakes. Or, you know what I'm saying? But I had to learn on my own. Everything for me has been I had to learn on my own. Mm-hmm. You know? And then, so I started calming down. I started trying to look for partners, like you know what? No, I want to get married again. I don't want to be a cheater anymore. Just want to calm down and just chill, you know, like settle down. So I was a little bit more mature by this time. And then 2018, 2019 comes. When I meet the individual that ruined me even more, but God used that to get me to where I'm at now. I met this person on.
Let's hear about it. Yes.
I met this person on Instagram, and it all started really with just my gym. By this time, I was already a trainer, and it was, you know, they came into my gym, and you know, I remember when, because you know, the clients end up opening up, they tell you everything. And I remember when I first met her, she got her little free session or whatever. I'm like, damn, this girl's been through some stuff. This girl's really jacked up, you know? So to me, it was like, oh man, you know, personally, this girl's jacked up. Feel bad for whoever ends up with this one. Literally, I know I was going to end up being me. But it was crazy because at this point, when I met her, I was at a very vulnerable state. I was very lonely. That was always my problem, bro. I had an emptiness, a void in my heart that I tried to fill in with parties and women and whatever. And even after a night of fun and craziness, I would come home feeling empty, lonely, and sad. And then, and mind you, being a cheater, liar for so many years, I couldn't believe how I let this individual brainwash me and trick me.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened, bro. I felt like madly in love. I think that woman I have never loved outside of my kids. I've never loved anyone more than I love that woman. More than my ex-wife, more than the mother of my second child, or anybody I've ever been with. That woman got the best Edgar prior to becoming a Christian. I wasn't a Christian at the time. She got the best Edgar, the most faithful, honest, loving, caring. That same mistake that I made when I was young, I said, I'm going to do it for her. And guess what happens? She had a ex-husband, baby daddy, who she just talked so much crap about him. A deadbeat, an abuser, alcohol, you name it. And I catch him red-handed. And she cheats on me with him. And I was ready to kill this fool. I mean, dude, and he was tall, and I didn't care. I was ready to fire on him. But her sister's husband was a pastor. And out of the respect that I had for him, I didn't drown that dude. We were at like a little pool thing. Here's the worst part. He knew that I was with her. And then I show up and he still does something. And she gives into it. That was the first day of 3.5 years of depression. That day. The same mistake that I made when I was young, to give someone my all, my best, and this happens. Oh, I was seriously, and I'm not even exaggerating, I was seriously ready to get some big time revenge, come back, shoot the whole block up or something. I was like, this is not going to stay this way. That happened, I don't know, that was a Friday or Saturday. The first Sunday after that day, I was at church. It was a Reformed Baptist church. I sat in the back, angry, mad, and crying. I never went back again. And then, how dumb I was. I still tried to make it work with the girl who cheated on me. Bro, it got to the point where I was trying to beg her to stay with me. Like, what kind of a fool begs someone after they did what they did? And to this day, bro, I never got a sorry for what she did to me. Never got an apology. And that fueled my anger and pain for so many years. Like, damn, are you that evil? After I gave you my best, you did that to me, and you still can't even say I'm sorry. So, I mean, I was just destroyed. And again, I went to Calvary Chapel, which is where my mom goes right now. I remember pulling up to the parking lot. And here's where now I'm going to start the story on why for many years I distrusted and disliked church people. My first day, I'm crying in the parking lot. I go into this big church. Yeah, there were some people that said hello. I remember walking in. I mean, that church sits at least 300-400 people. I sat second to last. I was the only one in that row, bro. Everybody was in front. Everybody was behind. Nobody was in that row next to me. The lights go off. The music starts. I don't start crying I don't stop crying to the very end. And no one came up to me. No one. And from that day to a couple years later, I had anger towards church folks. So you see a pattern of me trying to love and do all that stuff. I get hurt, turns into wrath, and then I start to hate everybody.
Well, I mean, it sounds like there's this sort of cycle of, wherever we want to start it, but, being sinned against and responding sinfully, and lashing out against other things. And it seems like stuff really spiraled in that sense for you. Now, was it during this period, these years, that your brother died as well?
No. Not yet. So I stayed at Calvary Chapel for a little bit, and it was hard, bro. Trying to go to the men ministry. Now, I will say I did meet a few good brothers that had my back, but I wasn't going to open up to them. I wasn't going to trust anybody, bro. Remember, trust has always been my issue with people.
Now, would you say at this point you were, not a Christian, but like thinking about it in those terms more? Or where were you?
I don't know where I was at. I just know that what I was doing was not working. I needed real help. And I automatically said, you need to go to church. Now, some of these brothers really tried. It was hard for me to make friends, and it was difficult. And then I would say maybe in my third year, it was a little bit better. A little bit. And then I meet somebody at church. I was not ready to be in a relationship. I was immature. I was still hurt because of the girl before her. But I said, you know what? She's a Christian. So I thought, so maybe this will work out, this is what I need. I need a Christian girl. Bro, we were sleeping together in less than 1 week. Here comes the pattern again. But this time, though, my conviction was like, no, I need to stop. This is not right. Like, not that I didn't know before, but like, no, this is no. How are we gonna be doing this and then go to church? No. So my conviction started to get stronger. Now, mind you, by this time, I'm already starting to study God's word more. My knowledge is starting to come back a little, not come back, but learn a little bit more. And I just felt convicted, bro. I wasn't a good boyfriend either. I'm not gonna put all the blame on her, but I was not ready. And mind you, anything I'm about to say, I already apologized to her for this. I wrote her a letter. I remember in one of Doug's class, the only time I ever died, I cried in Doug's class. It was I think we were studying John. I remember you weren't there yet. I had to mute the camera because I started to cry. And I was just like, you know what? I got convicted so bad that I said I need to apologize. I was so wrong how I treated her. She messed up a lot. Ooh, a lot. But I was wrong.
Yeah.
And you know why? I never like cheated on her or anything like that, per se. But I might as well have. Because I confessed to her that every time I was with you, every time we were in church together, I would turn to the side and look at you and in my head say, why couldn't you be the other girl? The one before her.
Yeah.
The whole time, bro, I was wishing that this one was the other one. And then a little bit later on, we ended up getting engaged. Right? We ended up getting engaged. But by this time, again, I had really tried to stop doing all that other stuff we were doing.
Yeah.
And then we started having problems because I wanted to really stop having sex. I wanted to study God's word more. I wanted to doing the right things. She started calling me boring. Oh, you're probably sleeping with so-and-so because you don't want to touch me anymore. So that started having problems. We had three different like premarital counselors. It went bad on all of them. And then the last one, when I went to a different church, the first session, I said, we're done. This ain't gonna happen. This is not what, no. No. It's not gonna happen. It ended really bad with her though. Really bad. But again, I've apologized to her. She cussed me out in the email, and that's fine. But my conscience is clear because I did apologize. I accepted my mistakes, and then around this time, I started in my cage stage of Calvinism, Die Hard 1689, right? And then this is where I became. I got my enemies.
Are you a real? So at this point in the story, are you a Christian?
I would say yeah.
So okay, so when did things switch? Because I'm hearing, your conscience is pricking you in ways that are harder to ignore. Your behavior is changing, maybe. When do you think that you stopped just being the, cute, chubby little kid that grew up not Catholic, and actually, you know what? No, I'm going to trust Jesus to take away my sins. When's that?
I think I can't give you an exact time, but it was when I started reading and studying God's word more. Mm-hmm. When I started to say, oh man, I need to stop. This is not right. So when I started studying this, when I started realizing, and then I got deep into the whole Calvinism and everything. And bro, I was fighting with all the dispensationalists, all the Calvary Chapel dudes. I mean, like nasty fighting. And that's why to this day, bro, they're not my friends anymore. I apologize to them, but I called out their pastor. I talked so much smack. I still had anger in me, but now my anger, instead of cussing somebody out, I would use scripture to try to call them stupid and woo 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 because your theology is wrong and everything, right?
So different word, same sentiment.
Pretty much. So we broke up, and then so I've been single for like, I don't know, 3 years now. And then we start the Doug era. So this is where, around this time is when my brother died, but we'll get to that. I remember, what's the brother's name? Josh Copen?
Yeah.
He was interviewing Doug. And then I found Doug because I was fighting with the Reformed pastors all the time about 1689. And then when he said that I was sinning because I was working out on the Sabbath or whatever, yes. I'm going to study this book, the 1689 Confession, and I'm going to refute it. So looking up covenant theology.
So the thing that did it was this idol of games.
And then Doug, when he was a young boy toy himself, he shows up. And then it was when I started watching his videos. And then when I saw that video of Josh Copen, and he said that about New Covenant School Theology was going to start being online. So, I'm all there getting information. I was like, you know what? I want to do this. I've always been good at school, bro. Always. That's a gift that I have, is I'm very, very good in school, studying all that good stuff. And then I remember I had an interview with Doug, and that's when the Doug era started. The first year and a half, I was fighting with him all the time because I had that systematic theology, that reform, the Calvinism, and it was just like, what is this guy teaching? But then Doug, because the way you know how he teaches, he finally made me realize that I was wrong. And I've had nothing but bad teachers throughout my life, as far as the Bible, which is why I get really upset, or really, I don't know what's the word, bad teaching, because I know what it's like to sit under pastors that just mislead and poorly teach the people. And which is why I think there's a lot of biblical ignorance right now, because it starts at the top. If you don't have good teachers, I mean, it's going to reflect the church. And then just some of the stuff that I see nowadays, I'm like, oh man, you guys don't even own a Bible, I guess. So once I started that with Doug, it was the Church Life and Worship or something like that was the first one. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, I was so wrong in this. And then as we started going class after class, I was so wrong in this. And then as I started studying, John Riesinger, Blake White, and some of these other dudes, and when Doug, scolded me for not using commentaries anymore, and I just focused on just reading the text on my own, And just remember when what he taught us, that's where it was just like, oh, okay, yeah, he has it right. Yeah, I was wrong. That's not the way it is, you know. So, man,
now,
uh-huh.
You have been described as what some might call super aggressive and hostile and defensive.
Yeah.
So when Doug is teaching these things that you eventually did come around to, was your initial reaction?
I wanted to fight with him.
You wanted to fight with, so like,
but I couldn't, because he the way he teach, the way he walked through the text, I've never seen that before.
So you knew you were losing, basically.
I didn't have, I think I only challenged him one time on that Peter passage about wife calling her husband Lord. Even to this day, I still think that Doug is wrong on that.
I saw the group chat.
Yeah. So I couldn't, bro. I could not fight back because Doug was going to destroy me. I was like, dude, I was wrong. So now, and then, getting that systematic theology out of me and reading and studying it the way he's taught us, then it opened my eyes. And then now I was like, oh, okay, now I understand everything. You know what helped the most was when we took that biblical theology class. That one really showed me everything. And so my best years as a Christian was right now that I'm single. Right now that I'm studying his word, and right now that I'm teaching 75 studies a week, as you say, So, yeah. And then it's funny because it all started with me just on my phone, just me reading the Bible and just posting. Yeah. And then little by little, you know what? Maybe I should try to teach this. Yeah. And then that's where now this comes in, where my YouTube channel, that's when that happened. And then, if you go back and look at my earlier videos, I'm like, oh my God, this guy sucks. But if you look at my newer ones, you can see the big difference, So obviously you got to get better. You got to practice or whatever. Yeah. And then finally, recently was the whole Home Faith, the Home Fellowship. Because honestly, bro, I get it. No church is perfect. No pastor is perfect. Nobody's perfect. But what I've seen in traditional churches, it turned me off. And the last traditional church that I went to, when the two elders didn't want to, I asked them for help. Like, hey, would you guys mind reviewing one of my studies? Can you give me some pointers? Asking for help. I wasn't asking, hey, let me be a teacher. No. Would you mind? Nope. They left me on red twice. And they knew that I was teaching. I was going, at that time, I was NCST. But because I didn't go to over here, they have a Biola or whatever, it's a straight dispensational. Because I didn't go there, they weren't going to give me the time of day. So I was like, I'm out of here. And I was done. And then when Doug started the Home Fellowship series, that's when I said, you know what? That's I want to do that. And so and then during that time is when my brother passed away. And obviously it hurt. I don't care how super Christian you think you are, that's going to hurt. But I was able to deal with it. And I remember preaching for the first time at my brother's funeral, where everybody was mad, angry, sad. I was still able to say God is good, knowing that my brother was right there next to me, dead. If that would have happened in my first few years, bro, I probably would have turned my back on God and just like, hey, you killed my brother. But I was more mature by that time. So I was able to understand that and accept it, that my brother's responsible for what he did. So wherever he's at now, I can't get mad at God for that. Because my brother knew. No one in our family can't say that, oh, well, we didn't know. We know enough to know that if you reject Christ, and you die in that, you're done. So no one has an excuse. I don't know. And so really from being under Doug's teaching from that point, the end of 2021 to now, has been my strongest, where I have been able to win more than I lose. I've been able to stay pure. I'm not out there doing the craziness. That whatever sins that I used to have a trouble with, they're like almost completely dealt with. And because my time now is focused on my kids, the gym, and my 100 studies a week, bro, I can't even get in trouble now because I'm always being fed. God's word is always being fed to me. I'm just like, I don't got time to do all this. I'm not gonna go over there. So it's just that is what has helped me to be where I'm at. And then I've always had this thing where I ask God, well, why do you have me alone? Why can't I be with somebody? And now I'm starting to realize, well, maybe he's not trying to be mean, or he's actually protecting me because he knows that's what used to get me in trouble. Doesn't mean that, I like it to be alone or whatever, but I could see if that's what he's doing. He's still maybe trying to work some things out in me and fixing issues in me. And then maybe in the future he might, send me a theological girl that deadlifts, But up to this point, bro, my dating life has been horrible. It's horrible. I've been meeting people who used to be like me. And these same people call themselves Christian. But they act like the way I used to act. And I remember all the lies, all the crap that I used to do. I'm like, damn, you guys are doing the same thing. No, I don't think so. You ain't gonna play me for a fool. That's been tough. But that's why I like trying to do more stuff. Trying to meet more often with the home fellowship, trying to do more studies, and now taking on 2 classes with Doug just so I can stay busy. Yeah. That's what's got me to where I'm at now, is literally putting God first. Regardless of how I may feel lonely or whatever, me putting God first has got me to where I'm at now.
That's good.
So that would be the best advice because we're running out of time. That would be my best advice to anybody. Yeah, this thing only gives me an hour or else it's going to charge me. Is best advice I can give anyone is whatever void or whatever you may have in your heart, and you try to fill it in with a person or a substance, it's never going to happen. They're always going to fail you. But I'm living proof that God can use anybody, and I'm living proof that when you literally put God first, you can go from what I described, how I used to be, to where I'm at now. And I'm hoping and praying that in the next 5 years, I'll be next level where I can challenge Doug when I want. You know what I'm saying? But right now, it's just, I know as much as I wish I had somebody, I know I'm not ready to be a husband. But I know that I'm a lot better now, and I know that I wouldn't do what I used to do because I'm very picky now. Very picky. No, for real, very picky. Like, some might say too picky, but no, I refuse to ever settle, because if I go and marry somebody or be with somebody who's going to drag me down, drag me into sin, and draw me away from God, then what's the point of that?
No, and it's good and mature that you see that. I do have one rapid fire question for
you.
What would you say is the biggest thing that God has changed in your heart or life since you become a Christian?
Being a giver.
Being a giver.
I used to be a stingy individual. Now, again, not trying to boast, but I don't believe in tithing, but my offerings to churches I used to be at, I've written some fat checks because God has blessed me. And then now I get more joy when I buy stuff for people.
Good.
Like for our home fellowship. Oh, here's a shirt. Here's a Bible. Here's this. Here's that. I get excited when it arrives because it makes me feel good, because I was never like that before. Again, I can tell you what I've purchased for somebody recently that was almost $1,000 that it didn't even hurt me because that individual needed it. And that individual is a good brother, sister in Christ. I said, go ahead, you need it. I don't expect anything in return.
Well, praise
God. That's the
that.
Biggest thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And so I guess as we have 10 seconds left, I'll just say thank you, brother. I'm glad to see you grow. And since you're so good at school and ready to grow in God, that means you're going to take Greek with me, right?
Oh, man.
We're out of time. All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right, brother. God bless.